As you might expect, it is the game tonight that is dominating everything on the papers. I'll tell you, Edwin van der Sar pens open letter to Manchester United fans. There was a lot of soppiness from Ajax with Donny van de Beek. I don't know what you made of that, Eoin. John Duggan's new column, those that take a stand will be a part of history. Kevin Doyle says why Stephen Kenny's subtle man management could work, and you've got to respect Murray. He is lethal mentally. Luke Jensen, always a great guest, was on the show last night as well. And Gareth Bale is in the paper today. We might briefly touch on Gareth Bale. Here's the Examiner for you, and it's player transfers feed into good vibes for Ireland's new start. Brendan O'Brien's piece about how everybody's feeling pretty confident about life. Can Kenny get Ireland hopes back on track? It is a question that will be answered sooner rather than later. Empty ice baths and serving your own food, the show must go on. So that's what it's actually like for the players in Bulgaria. I think not that many of the journalists actually over there covering the game. Great picture on the back of the Irish Independent. Green day for Sam. So that's Sam Bennett in the green jersey with his mask on. And first Irish man in 31 years or 32 years since Sean Kelly. 89 was the last time we had it. Louth GAA launched probe into spitting incident. So as Tommy points out, spitting at anybody anytime, not good. Spitting at somebody in the middle of a global pandemic where you can transmit your viral load through a gob, not a great look. The Louth County Board Chairman Peter Fitzpatrick, independent TD, has said that they're going to try and nip it in the bud. Kenny to make big call on Coleman Doherty dilemma. New Ireland boss expected to select €70 million Spurs signing ahead of skipper for opener in Sofia. The Racing Post, Nations League action tonight. Roberto Mancini, Italy, the cream of nations, and the dream team, Enable and Dettori, ready to rumble one more time in Britain after smooth Gallops workout. So if you're into racing, do get a chance to see Enable while you can. And huge call for Kenny. That's the Herald headline on Dan's piece. Same piece from the Indo, of course. And expectations rise as Kenny faces first test is the headline on Emmett Malone's piece to preview the game tonight, where a picture of a pensive Stephen Kenny in Sofia in his Ireland gear, and manager taking nothing for granted. Kenny may turn to some familiar faces for Nations League opener against Bulgaria. So a lot of speculation about what the actual makeup of the team is going to be. And then the tabloids. Take bull by the horns is the Mirror headline. Yes, we can is the Star headline. Rallying the troops, and bull a fast one. Stephen wants to start quickly. Is that your tab of the morning? Can he kick it? Yes, he can is the headline on Gary Breen's piece. Is that the tab of the morning? Do we have a tab of the morning? You're remaining mute there, Eoin. Is that like because you're waiting for something good?
I'm kind of waiting for something good, but absolutely, the winner so far is that headline, sure.
Full throttle is the headline on the Mail, and Leinster plot to stall destructive Stander. We're going to speak with Matty Williams in just a couple of minutes' time about what Leinster need to do to stop CJ Stander and his bullocking runs. And then it is a picture of Adam Yates, who was stunned to be in the yellow jersey after Julien Alaphilippe of the Quickstep team was penalised 20 seconds for taking an illegal feed. So not the leader on the actual track, but the leader in the yellow jersey today. So there you go, and that's the same. Messi seeks a $100 million compromise fee is the story in the Telegraph, and the story in the back of the London Times. Real Bale hair raiser. So Gareth Bale showing everybody the incredible mane of hair that he has. Little flecks of grey through it now at this stage though, so he must be surely feeling that now is the time to go and play some football. He's 31, he's got 2 years left of his deal. 60 million is the gross figure, apparently. 60 million before tax, a little more than 60 million before tax, so that's what you have to pay. You can get him for nothing, according to the back of the London Times this morning, and you know, maybe 60 million for 2 years of Gareth Bale is enough for some of those teams. Reminder, of course, OTB AM is live in association with Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. We've got about 15 minutes here to tease our way through some of these stories in the paper zone. What do you think?
Let's start with Sam Bennett, considering we haven't spoken about him yet this morning. I would contend that Sam Bennett is the most exciting sports person from Ireland right now. Certainly in terms of what you're getting from him whenever you turn on any race, any Grand Tour that he's been involved in recent years, because he is in contention and he's a sprinter. Like, it's just in basic fact that we like to watch things that move very quickly. We don't have a lot of them in Ireland sometimes, even when it comes to our great athletes, have tended to be over middle distance or long distance. But we've got one of the best sprinters in cycling in the world right now in Sam Bennett. And as you mentioned there, the first person since Sean Kelly to hold the green jersey in the Tour de France. So, the story over the last couple of years has been quite interesting. He was obviously riding with the Bora Hansgrohe team until this season, which obviously is Peter Sagan's team. And he would have ridden mostly in the Vuelta and the Giro, won stages in both, but was basically never given a chance to succeed at the Tour, never even given a chance to ride the Tour over the last couple of years because of Sagan. And I remember doing a walking tour around Bratislava a couple of years ago, and our tour guide was like, Peter Sagan is the man. He is our national treasure. He is a bit of a diva, but we all love him. There's always this kind of general sense around Sagan that he's like pretty tough to deal with, but he's just obviously this exceptional talent where he's won the points classification at the Tour 7 times, going for a record 8th this year. And I would say if you're Sam Bennett trying to broach the topic of, hey, Peter, any chance you might step aside and let me go for green this year, probably a difficult thing to do from what's written about him. Of course, he deserves to have his diva status given what he's done. But basically, Bennett has to change team, goes to Quick Step Floors. And look at him now. Look at him now going past Peter Sagan, taking the green jersey off him. I know it's early doors, very, very early doors. There's a long, long way to go. And Sagan is probably still the favourite. I haven't checked the odds, but I'm sure he's still heavy, heavy favourite. But I'm sure there's a little bit of sweetness about Sam Bennett racing into that position in the points classification yesterday, not least because of his own relationship with the Tour de France. As I've already mentioned, the fact that he hasn't really been in the mix to even compete in recent years, but also when you look at the times when he did compete in the Tour de France, the first one he did compete in was 2015, had to abandon that particular Tour de France. In an interview with Sticky Bottle at the time, he said that he was actually urinating blood at one stage, on stage 17 of that. Then the following year, he crashed on stage 1 in Utah Beach. He looks like it's a pretty severe crash, looks like he's done for the Tour, but he rides on, makes it all the way to Paris with a clamp in his hand, but finishes last. He's the Lanterne Rouge. It's a story well told. We all know it.
No, just to explain to people, because a lot of people won't put Sam Bennett with that. So just remind everybody.
Well, he finishes last in the Tour de France, which, people are like, oh, haha, if somebody finishes last. But to finish a Tour de France, if anybody's read Rough Ride, if anybody's read any cycling book, they'll know what an achievement that is. But to finish the Tour de France while you actually have something to ride for is one thing. But to do it when you know that you have a chance of finishing last is another thing entirely. He was 5 hours and 17 minutes behind Chris Froome in that year's Tour de France. Now, it was obviously because of that crash, and he was carrying...
On the first day?
The whole thing. On the first day.
I put it to you, anybody who's ever cycled up a hill knows how difficult it is. And he cycled up every single mountain in France with that injury, which was unbelievably serious, and showed the grit and determination to finish. And the Lanterne Rouge is like this kind of... It's actually something you should be proud of, where it shows that you are one of the hardest bastards in world sport.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. That's the point I'm trying to make here. It's not kind of a source of embarrassment for him. It's a badge of pride, without question, especially the way that he managed to get across the line on that particular occasion. So it's been kind of a whirlwind for him over the last few years. We've been really excited watching him at the Vuelta and at the Giro. As I say, watching a sprinter and watching any sprint finish in particular, it's just amazing stuff. I know it's going to be a summit finish today, but seeing him do it in the Tour de France has been phenomenal. The next step now is to actually just get a stage win at the Tour de France.
Sam Bennett and Peter Sagan, not Sagan, I always got this wrong, Sagan. Is that it?
Yeah.
Listen to Sean Kelly pronounce it yesterday. It's glorious. It's a glorious Peter Sagan. So anyway, the bookies can't split them. Sam Bennett 5-4 with some, 11-10 with others, and Peter Sagan is evens or 11-10 or 10-11 on best price or worst price, shortest price with others. So and then just a quick Google. This is a career-defining thing. Sagan gets paid about $5 million a year, and is obviously a global superstar as a result of what he's been doing. But this is Sam Bennett's opportunity to catapult himself into that level, right?
You would have thought so. And if you compare the profile of the two riders, it's like it's not comparable whatsoever. I mean, as you say, Sagan is a genuine superstar, but outside of Froome, possibly the superstar in world cycling, and perhaps in the continent of Europe, he's probably a bigger superstar again. So to actually go toe to toe with him, and if it is a proper battle down the home stretch here, not the home, like I mean, we're a huge distance away from the home stretch here, but in a couple of weeks' time, if it is a battle between the two of them for the green jersey and Sam Bennett comes out on top, it'd be pretty epic, to be quite honest with you. So it's a great thing to keep an eye on at the moment, and it's fantastic that he's really getting his opportunity now to shine in the Tour.
He's got a little Ireland flag on his helmet as well, isn't that right?
Yeah, and he was obviously wearing the national champions jersey as Ireland's national champ. Up until yesterday, of course, because now he gets to wear the green jersey.
I was going to say,
other shade of green.
I was going to say, if you're looking out for him today, he'll be the one in the green jersey. I was like, oh yeah, because it was hard to tell them apart. And the overhead angle, you're kind of looking to see where he was. Actually, good point. The best, easiest way, hopefully for the rest of the month, is going to be watch out for the guy in the green jersey, and it's green because it's Ireland, lads. That's it. It's like. Yeah. 087 918 180 is the number if you want to get in touch this morning about anything. Where next, Eoin?
Let's just give a brief mention of this Dylan Hartley piece. It's on the back of the London Times this morning. It's been covered, and Dylan Hartley's spoken a lot over the last few weeks. I guess about how reform is needed in rugby. He says that civil war is coming and that the players need to go on strike. He's made reference to the multiple player strikes that we've seen in American sports over the last couple of decades, and he says a similar action needs to be taken by the players in England at the moment. He's talking about the prospect of midweek games, and like I think there's an argument to be made that playing every weekend just for a long season is not great for the players, but to throw in midweek games on top of that would be an absolute disaster. It's interesting because he says lockdown would have been a perfect time to fix a lot of these issues, and his tone almost sounds as if he thinks that the opportunity has been missed, that lockdown was this great chance for rugby, particularly in England, to fix many of the troubles it had when it came to player welfare, and they've missed that. And like I guess yourself and Keith Wood basically spoke about the opportunities that rugby had every single week on State of the Union. It would be very interesting if there is a movement within the RFU and within the Premiership clubs to actually take this one step further and potentially fight for better welfare in rugby.
It feels like the opportunity was blown. You hope that some conversations that happened during that period will be carried forward into next year. I think there's a lot still to play for, and I think that whenever the decision gets made about what the future of the various tournaments is going to be and what the calendar is going to be, that actually player welfare can be the founding text for that. So you all agree that players can play whatever number of games it is a year, and then you layer on the tournaments that they're going to be available for as part of that. That's, if you start with every player is contracted to play a maximum of 30 games a year, give or take one or here, one or two at the end, depending on whether or not they're in a final or whatever, then all of a sudden you can only play 18 league games and 12 internationals, or you can only play 20 league games and 10 internationals, or 25 league games and 5 internationals. And all of a sudden it becomes very clear, this is our domestic competition, this is our international competition, this is how often the international teams have the players for, this is how often the clubs have the players for, and away you go. You just build out from that. And I definitely feel like the players could go on strike, could be more voracious in seizing a little bit of the power that's happening at the moment. Because again, if you look at what's happened, international capital groups have come in and decided to buy up parts of rugby, and when that happens, the players can very clearly see that there is a monetary value placed on their participation. That was the turning point in player and owner relations in American sports history, and look, it's a well-worn playbook at this point. He's right, the players do need to go on strike and the players do need to stick together. Ideally they do it across borders so that it's the same result for the players in the islands and in New Zealand and South Africa and Ireland and England, but we'll see what happens. I don't have much confidence that all those things are going to come to pass.
No, for sure. And also, like, how realistic is the prospect of a unified strike, given the various parties at work, especially in Premiership rugby?
I think that it's probably closer than would be obvious. It doesn't take that much. It takes a few well-positioned, well-regarded individuals to get together and say, what's your situation? Is that acceptable? What's going on at your club? Is that acceptable? And there's definitely been a sense that the players' unions have been very cosy across the world with the leagues, and probably because mostly the unions have tried to look after their players quite well. The owners have been a bit more transactional in their relationship with the players. So I don't know. I don't think it would take that much. You just need some inspirational leaders to emerge and go, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And maybe with all of the issues that Dylan Hartley has had on the field, maybe it's somebody like him who can actually win people over. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see exactly what happens. He's got a book out. Isn't that why he's talking so much at the moment? So maybe we'll hear from him in some detail about this, and we'll stick him on the list for Keith Wood's State of the Union in the next season as well. Right, where are we going next?
Just one last story this morning. I just want to talk a little bit about Dean Henderson, because obviously we've spoken quite a bit about him, particularly in the aftermath of David De Gea's nightmare in the FA Cup semi-final. Bit of a nightmare season in general for David De Gea, and about how good Dean Henderson has been. But he has just signed his new 5-year deal at Manchester United. He is in Gareth Southgate's squad, so he has been asked about David De Gea. And I'm not going to lie, I'm loving Dean Henderson's tone here. He says, it wouldn't be clever for me to sit around and not play football. I don't think that would help any parties at all. And now listen for his tone when he's talking about De Gea. David De Gea has been a great goalkeeper first and foremost for many years. He has been phenomenal. I'm so close now, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to put the pressure on. I respect David. He has been a phenomenal servant for the football club, and if not one of the best in recent years, it's down to me. I know what challenges are ahead. I'm well up for it. Nice use of the past tense there, Dean Henderson. He says, De Gea is something I aspire to be, to have a career like him at the club. So I'll be going back in first day of the pre-season, working my bollocks off to get in that starting lineup, because it's something I've always wanted. This is the sort of stuff we need to see when there is a proper head-to-head between goalkeepers, laying it on the line, calling somebody a phenomenal servant, or has been a phenomenal servant, and actually just putting it out there that I want to be number one. Now, we've had Gary Neville coming out, and he was speaking to Sky Sports in the aftermath of these comments yesterday, and he says that he's worried about these comments. He says that the easiest thing in the world would be for Manchester United to let them both play a load of games. Henderson plays in the Cups and De Gea plays in the leagues. They have some sort of agreement. But he feels that it's not going to happen, because De Gea will want to be number one, obviously. He'll want to be the undisputed number one, but Henderson will want his spot. Neville was also saying that Henderson really has a lot to prove, and he's probably right on this to a point. He says that playing in goal for Sheffield United is a lot different than standing out there in that vacuous, empty, massive space, which is the goal mouth at Old Trafford. Now, I'm not sure if it's that different, but I still think the pressure of being Manchester United goalkeeper is different to the pressure of being Sheffield United goalkeeper.
Because you face less shots? Because you have to do less work? Like, come on, this is self-aggrandizing nonsense from Manchester United, I think. And actually, playing in goals, we've seen good quality keepers can play well for whatever team they're playing for. Like, Alisson didn't suddenly feel like, oh, this is such a massive step up. You know, I actually don't agree with that. I think that he's proven himself in the Premier League, get him in the team, and you're going to remove all that doubt, and like maybe you try and recover some value in David De Gea. But I don't know. I'm not on board with what he's saying, particularly because there's going to be nobody in the stadium probably for the first few months of the new season. So it's a perfect time to put somebody in the team, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's just going to be one of the more scrutinised decisions in the Premier League this season. Yeah. The Manchester United goalkeeper spot.
All the more reason, I think, to play some young players tonight for Stephen Kenny too, but we can come back to that a little